The salvage ship. Meridian's edge drifted through the debris field like a metal ghost, its hull scarred by countless journeys through the darker corners of the galaxy. Captain Zara Thorne watched the scanner readouts with practiced eyes, her pale blue fingers dancing across the holographic display. The Altarian had been running salvage operations for over 2 decades, long enough to know when something didn't belong. "Captain, I'm picking up an energy signature from that wreckage cluster at bearing 27 Mark IV, her engineer, Crix, called from his station. The insectoid's mandibles clicked nervously as he studied his instruments. "It's faint, but it's definitely artificial." Zara's crystalline eyes narrowed. This sector had been picked clean by salvagers years ago, after the great battle between the hegemony and the resistance. Nothing valuable should remain here, floating among the twisted metal and frozen corpses that marked humanity's last stand against the Galactic Empire. "Take us in closer," she ordered, her voice carrying the authority of someone who had survived in the salvage business longer than most. "But keep the shields up. Dead doesn't always mean harmless." The Meridian's edge maneuvered through the debris with practiced ease. Chunks of destroyed warships tumbled slowly in the vacuum, their hull plating torn open like metallic flowers. Zara had seen enough battlefields to recognize the signs of a massacre. The human ships had been outgunned, outnumbered, and overwhelmed, yet they had fought anyway. There, Crix pointed to a section of wreckage that had once been a human cruiser. Half the ship was missing, sheared away by weapons fire, but the rear section remained mostly intact. "The energy reading is coming from inside." Zara studied the wreckage through the view screen. The ship's name was still visible on the hull, painted in the angular script humans favored. UES Defiance. She had heard stories about this vessel, how it had held the line when the hegemony's fleet arrived to crush the human rebellion. The ship had bought time for civilian transports to escape, sacrificing itself in the process. "Scan for life signs," she ordered. "Negative on biological life," Crix reported after a moment. "But there's definitely something powered up in there. Some kind of stasis system, maybe?" Zara felt a chill run down her spine. Stasis pods were expensive, military-grade equipment. If someone had been preserved in there for 20 years, they might still be alive. More importantly, they might be valuable. "Prep the boarding shuttle," she decided. "I'm going over there myself." Her crew exchanged glances. Boarding derelict ships was dangerous work, especially those from active combat zones, but Zara had built her reputation on taking risks others wouldn't. 20 minutes later, she was floating through the airlock of the Defiance, her suit's lights cutting through the darkness. The ship's artificial gravity was offline, leaving everything in 0G. She moved carefully through corridors filled with debris, following her scanner toward the energy source. The human ship was a tomb. Bodies floated in the corridors, preserved by the cold vacuum. Young faces, old faces, all wearing the same expression of grim determination. These people had known they were going to die, but they had stayed at their posts anyway. Zara found the source of the energy signature in what had once been the ship's medical bay. A single stasis pod sat in the center of the room, its status lights blinking steadily. The pod was intact, its transparent aluminum viewport revealing the pale face of a young human woman inside. She checked the pod's display. The occupant had been in stasis for 19 years, 7 months, and 12 days. All vital signs were stable. Whoever she was alive. Zara's hands hesitated over the control panel. Salvage law was clear. Anything found in space belonged to whoever found it. But people weren't cargo, even sleeping people. Still, this woman might have information about hidden human colonies or the location of treasure caches. The Resistance had been known to hide valuable supplies. A sound made her turn. Her suit's motion detectors had picked up movement in the corridor behind her. She spun around, her hand moving to the plasma cutter on her belt, but saw nothing except drifting debris. She turned back to the pod and nearly jumped out of her skin. The woman's eyes were open, looking directly at her through the transparent viewport. Clear green eyes, alert and aware despite nearly 2 decades in stasis. The woman's lips moved, forming words Zara couldn't hear through the pod's sealed environment. She was trying to communicate. Zara activated her suit's external speakers and placed them against the pod. "Can you hear me?" The woman nodded weakly and spoke again. Her voice was barely a whisper, transmitted through vibrations in the pod's metal frame. "Please, don't leave me here." Those simple words hit Zara harder than she expected. She looked into those green eyes and saw not a potential source of profit, but a person. Someone who had been alone in the darkness for almost 20 years, waiting for rescue that might never come. "I won't leave you," Zara heard herself saying. "But I need to get you back to my ship first. The pod's portable, but it'll take some work to extract it safely." The woman smiled, and for the first time in years, Zara felt something stir in her chest that wasn't related to profit margins or salvage rights. It took 3 hours to carefully extract the stasis pod from the Defiance and transport it to the Meridian's edge. Zara's crew worked with unusual care, treating their cargo as if it were made of spun glass. When they finally had the pod secured in the ship's medical bay, Zara found herself staring at the sleeping woman through the viewport. "Captain," Crix approached her cautiously, "I've been running scans on our guest. Her biometrics are human, but there's something else. Her neural patterns are unusual." "Unusual how?" The insectoid's mandibles clicked thoughtfully. "There are artificial components integrated with her brain tissue. Not crude cybernetics, but something far more sophisticated. I've never seen anything like it." Zara studied the readouts he handed her. The woman's brain showed signs of enhancement. Neural pathways that had been carefully modified and augmented. But the modifications were subtle, elegant. Nothing like the crude brain implants used by pirates and mercenaries. "What does it mean?" she asked. "I'm not sure. But, Captain, I think she might be one of them. One of the enhanced." The enhanced. Zara had heard whispers about them in the darkest corners of space stations and pirate strongholds. Humans who had undergone experimental procedures during the war, trading their humanity for abilities that bordered on the supernatural. Most people dismissed the stories as legend, but looking at the scanner readings, Zara wasn't so sure. "Can we wake her safely?" she asked. "The pod systems are stable, and she's been showing signs of natural awakening for the past hour. Her body is ready to come out of stasis." Zara made her decision. Do it, but keep a medkit ready and have security standing by. The stasis pod's awakening cycle began with a soft hum of machinery. Gases vented from the sealed environment as the temperature slowly rose to human normal. The woman's breathing became deeper, more regular, as her body prepared to return to consciousness. When the pod finally opened with a soft hiss, the woman's eyes fluttered open. She looked around the unfamiliar medical bay with confusion before her gaze settled on Zara. "You came back," she whispered, her voice hoarse from disuse. "I said I wouldn't leave you," Zara replied. "What's your name?" The woman struggled to sit up, her muscles weak from decades in stasis. "Commander Sarah Chen, UES Defiance, serial number 7794 Alpha Epsilon." She recited the information automatically, then seemed to focus. "What year is it?" "Galactic Standard 2387. Sarah's face went pale. 19 years. I've been asleep for 19 years. She looked at Zara with haunted eyes. "The war? Did we win?" Zara's heart sank. How do you tell someone that their sacrifice had been in vain, that the cause they died for had been crushed? "The hegemony won. Humanity is scattered. Most of the colonies fell. Sarah closed her eyes, absorbing the news. When she opened them again, there was something different in her expression, a hardness that hadn't been there before. Then they're still out there, she said quietly, still enslaving worlds, still crushing anyone who dares to resist. The hegemony controls most of the galaxy now, Zara admitted. But there are free traders like us, independent worlds that stay neutral. It's not the war you remember. Sarah swung her legs over the side of the pod, testing her balance. You said us. You're not human. Altarian. Captain Zara Thorne. This is my ship, the Meridian's Edge. Sarah studied her with those piercing green eyes. A salvager. You found me while picking through the bones of my ship. There was no accusation in her voice, just statement of fact. Zara felt heat rise in her cheeks anyway. I'm sorry about your crew. They died well. They died believing it mattered. Sarah stood, surprisingly steady for someone who had been in stasis for 2 decades. Tell me, Captain Thorne, in these 19 years of hegemony rule, how many worlds have been freed? How many slaves liberated? Zara didn't answer because they both knew the answer was 0. Sarah walked to the viewport that looked out at the debris field. The Defiance was carrying more than just refugees when we made our last stand. We had intelligence, plans, the locations of hidden supply caches, information that could restart the resistance. She turned back to Zara, and for a moment, the salvage captain could swear she saw something else in those green eyes, something that glowed with its own inner light. I owe you my life, Captain Thorne. And now I need to ask you for something more. I need passage to the Outer Rim. There are people I need to find, preparations I need to make. The Outer Rim is dangerous territory. Pirates, raiders, hegemony patrol fleets. What could possibly be worth that risk? Sarah smiled, and when she did, Zara felt a chill run down her spine. It wasn't entirely human, that smile. Hope, Captain. I'm going to give the galaxy hope again. As if responding to her words, the lights in the medical bay flickered, not the random fluctuation of aging electrical systems, but a deliberate pattern, almost like a signal. Zara looked at her instruments and felt her blood freeze. Every electronic device in the room was showing the same impossible reading. They were all connected to the same network, all responding to the same source. She looked at Sarah, who was still smiling that not-quite-human smile. What are you? Zara whispered. I'm what humanity became when we realized we couldn't win with flesh and blood alone, Sarah replied. I'm enhanced. And now that I'm awake, it's time to wake up the others. The lights flickered again, and somewhere in the depths of space, ancient signals began to stir. The journey to the Outer Rim took 12 days through hyperspace, during which Zara learned more about her passenger than she had bargained for. Sarah Chen wasn't just enhanced, she was something entirely new, a fusion of human consciousness and quantum computing that existed as much in virtual space as in the physical world. The process wasn't voluntary, Sarah explained as they sat in the ship's small galley, watching stars streak past through the viewport. When the hegemony began their final push, our scientists realized conventional warfare wasn't enough. They developed the enhancement protocol as a last resort. Zara sipped her coffee, studying the human woman across from her. Sarah looked entirely normal now, just another refugee from a forgotten war. But Zara had seen the readouts, watched her interface with the ship's computers through touch alone. How many of you are there? Were, Sarah corrected. The procedure was experimental, dangerous. Most volunteers didn't survive the neural integration. Of those who did, many were killed in the final battles. She paused, her eyes taking on that distant look that meant she was accessing information through her neural links. 43 enhanced operatives were successfully created and deployed. I was number 37. And the others? In stasis, scattered across the galaxy in hidden facilities, or dead. Sarah's voice remained steady, but Zara caught the brief flicker of pain in her green eyes. The enhancement protocol included a failsafe. If we were separated for more than 20 years, our neural networks would begin autonomous reactivation. The implications hit Zara like a physical blow. You mean they're all waking up, right now? Those who survived, yes. And they'll remember everything, every battle, every loss, every reason we swore to never surrender. Zara set down her cup, her hands suddenly unsteady. Sarah, the galaxy has been at peace for nearly 2 decades. The hegemony isn't the same empire you fought. They've become administrative, bureaucratic. Most people live decent lives under their rule. Sarah's laugh was bitter. Decent lives? Captain, are you familiar with the slave markets on Zerion Prime? The forced labor camps on the mining worlds? The administrative districts where entire species have been relocated against their will? Zara opened her mouth to argue, then closed it. She had seen those places, traded in those systems. She had chosen not to think too hard about what she witnessed there. The hegemony maintains order through fear and oppression, Sarah continued. They've just become more efficient at it, more subtle. But slavery is still slavery, whether the chains are made of metal or law. Before Zara could respond, her ship's communication system chimed with an incoming transmission. She frowned. They were in deep space, light years from the nearest inhabited system. Who could possibly be calling? Captain Thorne. The voice that emerged from the speakers was crisp, professional, and entirely unfamiliar. This is Commander Marcus Webb, UES Prometheus. Please respond. Sarah went rigid, her eyes wide with shock. Marcus! But the Prometheus was destroyed at the Battle of Kepler Station. I saw the footage myself. Zara opened the channel, her voice cautious. Commander Webb, this is Captain Thorne. How did you locate my ship? Enhanced Quantum Communication Network, Captain. We've been monitoring subspace for awakening signals. Is Commander Chen aboard your vessel? Sarah leaned forward, speaking into the comm. Marcus, it's Sarah. How are you alive? How is your ship intact? Long story, Sarah. Right now, we have bigger concerns. Hegemony forces are mobilizing across 3 sectors. Our awakening hasn't gone unnoticed. The blood drained from Zara's face. Hegemony forces? What are you talking about? Another voice joined the transmission. This one female with a slight accent Zara couldn't place. Captain Thorne, this is Dr. Elena Vasquez, formerly of the UES Hermes. The enhancement protocol included certain security measures. When we began reactivating, it triggered alerts in hegemony surveillance networks. They know we're awake, Marcus added grimly, and they're coming for us. Sarah's expression had gone cold, calculating. How many of us have reactivated? 17 confirmed so far, Elena replied. 3 more are still in the awakening process. The rest... There was a pause. The rest are gone, Sarah. Their stasis facilities were discovered and destroyed years ago. 23 enhanced humans lost to time and enemy action. Zara watched Sarah process this information, saw the brief flicker of grief before it was replaced by something harder. What's our tactical situation? Sarah asked, her tone shifting into military formality. Bad, Marcus admitted. The hegemony has deployed hunter-killer squadrons to our last known positions. They're using some kind of new tracking technology, something that can detect our neural signatures even through our stealth systems. Zara felt her stomach drop. They can track you? How? The enhancement protocol left us connected to quantum networks, Sarah explained. It's what allows us to communicate across interstellar distances, interface with computers, process information at superhuman speeds. But it also means we emit a unique quantum signature. Like a beacon, Elena added. We're working on countermeasures, but for now, we're all targets. The ship's proximity alarms suddenly screamed to life. Zara rushed to the bridge. Sarah close behind her. On the main display, 3 massive warships were dropping out of hyperspace, sleek angular vessels bearing the crimson and gold insignia of the hegemony. "Captain Thorne," a new voice transmitted across all frequencies, cold and authoritative. "This is Admiral Koros of the Hegemony Third Fleet. You are harboring a war criminal. Surrender the enhanced operative immediately, and your crew will be spared." Zara's hands flew over her controls, bringing the ship's weapons online. But the Meridian's Edge was a salvage vessel, not a warship. Against 3 hegemony cruisers, they wouldn't last 5 minutes. "Admiral," Zara transmitted back, "I'm a licensed salvage operator working in neutral space. I have no idea what you're talking about." "Your passenger, Captain. We know she's aboard. The quantum signature is unmistakable." Sarah placed her hand on the ship's communication console, and immediately, the displays around her began showing tactical information that hadn't been there moments before. Zara watched in amazement as her ship's simple sensors suddenly provided detailed readouts on the hegemony vessel's weapon systems, shield configurations, and crew complements. "How are you doing that?" Zara whispered. "The enhancement allows me to interface directly with any computer system," Sarah replied, her eyes glowing faintly in the bridge's dim lighting. "Your ship's sensors are now connected to the enhanced network. We can see everything." On the main screen, the tactical display showed the 3 hegemony ships moving into an attack formation. But it also showed something else, faint energy signatures at the edge of the system moving fast. "Sarah," Marcus's voice came through the comm. "We're 15 minutes out. Can you hold them off?" Zara looked at her meager weapons display, then at the overwhelming firepower arrayed against them. "Not a chance. They'll blow us apart the moment we make an aggressive move." Sarah smiled, and once again Zara felt that chill of unease. "Captain, may I have permission to access your ship's full systems?" "What are you planning?" "To show the hegemony why they were so afraid of us during the war." Zara hesitated. Giving an enhanced operative full access to her ship's systems went against every instinct she had. But the alternative was certain death. "Do it," she decided. Sarah placed both hands on the main console, and the bridge exploded with activity. Every display showed different information streams, tactical overlays, and system diagnostics that Zara had never seen before. Her simple salvage ship suddenly had the sensor resolution of a military vessel and the computational power of a battlecruiser. "Admiral Koros," Sarah transmitted, her voice carrying an edge of steel. "This is Commander Sarah Chen, Enhanced Operative 37. If you want me, come and take me." The hegemony ships opened fire without warning, lance beams of coherent energy streaking across space toward the Meridian's edge. But Sarah was already moving, the ship dancing through the attack pattern with inhuman precision. Zara grabbed her chair as the ship spun through a series of impossible maneuvers, avoiding destruction by margins measured in meters. The inertial dampeners screamed in protest, but somehow held. "How is this possible?" she gasped. "Quantum processing," Sarah replied calmly, even as she piloted the ship through another barrage. "I can calculate trajectory patterns and defensive solutions faster than their targeting computers can track us." But even enhanced reflexes had limits. The 3 hegemony ships were coordinating their attacks now, creating overlapping fields of fire that would be impossible to avoid. "Sarah," Zara said quietly, "we can't keep this up forever." "I know." Sarah's hands moved across the controls with fluid grace. "But we don't need forever. We just need 5 more minutes." The ship shuddered as a near miss overloaded their port shields. Sparks flew from damaged consoles, and the lights flickered ominously. 4 minutes, Sarah corrected, her voice still eerily calm. The hegemony ships closed in for the kill, their weapons charging for a final, coordinated strike. On the tactical display, Zara could see the energy buildup that would vaporize her ship in seconds. Then space itself seemed to tear apart. 3 ships materialized out of nowhere, not dropping from hyperspace, but simply becoming visible as if they had been there all along. They were sleek, deadly vessels that looked like nothing Zara had ever seen, their hulls seeming to absorb light rather than reflect it. "This is Commander Webb." Marcus's voice filled the bridge. "Enhanced Squadron Alpha. You picked the wrong ship to threaten, Admiral." The hegemony ships immediately shifted targets to the new arrivals, but they might as well have been firing at ghosts. The enhanced vessels moved with the same impossible precision Sarah had demonstrated, avoiding every shot while returning fire with weapons that seemed to bend space itself. In less than 3 minutes, it was over. One hegemony cruiser was completely destroyed, another crippled and drifting, and the third was retreating at maximum speed. "Sarah," Elena's voice came through the comm. "Are you all right?" "Intact and operational," Sarah replied. "Captain Thorne provided excellent support." Zara stared at the tactical display, trying to process what she had just witnessed. "Those ships, they're not showing up on my sensors properly. It's like they're only partially here." "Phase shift technology," Sarah explained. "Another benefit of the enhancement protocol. We learned to exist in multiple quantum states simultaneously." The enhanced squadron formed up around the Meridian's edge, escorting them toward a nebula that hadn't been on Zara's charts moments before. "Welcome to Haven Station," Marcus transmitted. "Time to show you what we've been building for the past 20 years. As they approached the nebula, it shimmered and dissolved, revealing a massive space station unlike anything Zara had ever imagined. It was clearly of human construction, but enhanced with technology that seemed to defy conventional physics. "My God," she whispered. "Not God," Sarah said quietly. "Just humans who refuse to surrender. And Captain Thorne, what you see here is just the beginning." Haven Station defied everything Zara thought she knew about space construction. The massive structure seemed to exist in a state of controlled impossibility, its sections phasing in and out of normal space while maintaining structural integrity. As her ship was guided to a docking bay, she watched entire portions of the station become transparent, revealing the intricate quantum field generators that kept it hidden from conventional sensors. "Population 700,000, Sarah said, noting Zara's amazement. "Humans, yes, but not just those who fled the war. We've welcomed refugees from every species the hegemony has subjugated. Altarians like yourself, Zephyrians, Kethai, even some former hegemony citizens who grew tired of living under tyranny." The docking bay was a marvel of engineering, with gravity fields that allowed ships to land in any orientation. As they disembarked, Zara saw crews of mixed species working together with a coordination that spoke of years of cooperation. But what struck her most was the technology they used. Tools that responded to thought, materials that shifted and adapted to need, computers that seemed to predict their operators' intentions. "The enhancement wasn't limited to military applications," explained Dr. Elena Vasquez, who met them at the airlock. She was a small woman with silver-streaked hair and eyes that held the same inner light as Sarah's. "Once we learned to interface directly with quantum systems, we began developing technology that could respond to consciousness itself." A tall man with cybernetic implants along his jawline approached them. Marcus Webb still carried himself like the military officer he had been. But 20 years had added gray to his temples and lines around his eyes. "Captain Thorne, welcome to Haven. Sarah's told us how you saved her. We're in your debt." "I was just doing my job," Zara replied, feeling overwhelmed by the scope of what she was seeing. "Though I'm beginning to think I didn't understand what job I was really doing." Marcus smiled. "The universe has a way of putting people where they need to be. Let us show you what we've accomplished here." The tour that followed challenged every assumption Zara had about human capabilities. She saw factories where matter was assembled at the quantum level, creating materials stronger than anything the hegemony possessed. She witnessed training facilities where enhanced operatives learned to interface with technology so advanced it seemed like magic. Most remarkable of all, she saw children, human and alien both, learning to use consciousness-responsive technology as naturally as their parents had once used tools. "We call them the second generation," Elena explained as they watched a group of youngsters collaborating on a holographic sculpture that responded to their combined thoughts. Children born and raised here, equally comfortable in physical and quantum space, they represent something new, not just enhanced humans, but a truly post-physical intelligence. But it was in the station's memorial hall that Zara finally understood the true scope of what she had stumbled into. The walls were covered with names, thousands upon thousands of them. Humans who had died in the war, refugees who had perished fleeing oppression, entire species that the hegemony had driven to extinction. "We remember them all," Sarah said quietly. "Every name represents someone the hegemony considered expendable. This is why we couldn't simply accept their rule, no matter how efficient or peaceful it might seem." "But what can you do?" Zara asked. "Even with your technology, your enhanced abilities, you're still just 17 people against a galactic empire." 17 active enhanced operatives, Marcus corrected. "But we're far from alone." He led them to the station's command center, a vast chamber filled with holographic displays showing star maps, trade routes, and communication networks spanning the galaxy. But these weren't just tactical displays. They were showing something far more complex. "For 20 years, we've been building networks," Elena explained. "Not just communication networks, but networks of people. Resistance cells on occupied worlds, sympathetic traders carrying messages and supplies, even contacts within the hegemony itself." One of the displays zoomed in on a particular star system. "The mining colonies in the Zerion sector have been organizing labor strikes for months. The hegemony thinks they're dealing with isolated unrest, but every strike has been carefully coordinated through our network." Another display showed shipping manifests and cargo movements, trade routes that happen to bypass hegemony inspection stations, carrying refugees to safe worlds, medical supplies that find their way to quarantine zones, information that reaches the right people at the right time. Sarah activated another display, this one showing what looked like a complex web of interconnected nodes. "The enhancement protocol didn't just change us physically and mentally, it gave us the ability to create quantum-encrypted communication networks that the hegemony can't monitor or intercept. Every enhanced operative is a node in this network, capable of coordinating with thousands of agents across the galaxy." "We've been preparing," Marcus said simply. "Building infrastructure, gathering intelligence, positioning resources. The hegemony maintains control through fear and isolation, by convincing subject worlds that resistance is impossible, that they're alone." "But they're not alone," Zara realized. "No, they're not. And now that all the enhanced operatives are awake, it's time to prove it." Elena brought up a new display, this one showing current hegemony fleet deployments. 3 days ago, our network intercepted communications about something called Operation Purification. The hegemony is planning a series of administrative adjustments across the Outer Rim, essentially the forced relocation of entire planetary populations to make room for more compliant colonists. "Ethnic cleansing," Sarah said bluntly. "They're going to uproot billions of people from their homeworlds and scatter them across labor camps and detention centers. And they're starting with the worlds that have shown the most resistance to their rule." The scope of the planned atrocity hit Zara like a physical blow. Billions of people, torn from their homes and families, condemned to lives of forced labor or worse. It was genocide on a scale that made the worst excesses of the war look minor by comparison. "When do they start?" she asked. 48 hours, Marcus replied. "The first target is Kepler 7th, a human colony world with a population of 12 million. Can you stop it? Sarah's eyes glowed brighter as she interfaced with the command systems. Not stop it. That would require a conventional military force we don't possess. But we can do something better. The displays around them shifted, showing new tactical arrangements. We're going to expose it. Show the entire galaxy exactly what the hegemony really is. Broadcast the evidence of their crimes to every world, every ship, every communication network in known space. The hegemony maintains power through information control, Elena added. They tell people that the brutal measures are necessary for security, that the displaced populations are being relocated for their own safety. But when people see the truth, see the mass graves, the destroyed cities, the families torn apart, that control will break. And when it does, Marcus continued, our networks will be there to coordinate the response. Every world that's been quietly organizing resistance, every trade union that's been planning strikes, every military unit that's been questioning their orders, they'll all act simultaneously. Zara stared at the displays, trying to process the magnitude of what they were planning. You're talking about galactic revolution, total war against the hegemony. We're talking about freedom, Sarah said simply. The right of every sapient being to live without fear, to raise their children in peace, to determine their own destiny. She turned to face Zara directly. Captain, I need to ask you something. Your ship, your crew, they trust you. You've spent years moving through systems the hegemony monitors, trading with people they consider subjects. You know the underground economy, the gray markets, the places where information flows. What are you asking? Help us. Use your ship to carry our people to the right positions, deliver our equipment where it needs to go. You know how to move through space without attracting attention. We need that expertise. Zara felt the weight of the decision pressing down on her. Her life as a salvager had been comfortable, profitable, and most importantly, safe. What Sarah was asking would make her a target, mark her as an enemy of the most powerful empire in galactic history. But she thought about the names on the memorial wall, the children learning to build with light and thought, the billions of people who were about to lose everything they had ever known. My crew will want to know what they're signing up for, she said finally. Tell them the truth, Marcus suggested. Tell them they'll be saving lives. Zara activated her ship's internal comm system. All hands, report to the main briefing room. We need to talk. 20 minutes later, her entire crew had assembled in the station's briefing facility. Crix and the other engineers, her navigator Dex, the handful of security personnel she employed for dangerous salvage operations. All of them looked confused and more than a little nervous. I'm going to tell you something that will change your lives, Zara began. And after I'm done, each of you will have a choice to make. She told them everything. About finding Sarah, about the enhanced operatives, about the hegemony's planned atrocity, and the network that had spent 20 years preparing to stop it. She watched their faces as the implications sank in. When she finished, the briefing room was silent for a long moment. Finally, Crix spoke up. Captain, my homeworld is in the Outer Rim. My family might be among those they plan to relocate. Dex nodded. The hegemony killed my parents during the integration of my planet, called it administrative necessity. One by one, her crew voiced their support, not because they were looking for adventure or glory, but because they had all lost something to the hegemony's idea of order. Then it's decided, Zara said. The Meridian's Edge is hereby enlisted in the cause of freedom. Sarah stepped forward, her hand extended. Captain Thorne. On behalf of the Enhanced Network and the Free Systems Alliance, welcome to the Resistance. As Zara shook her hand, she felt a strange tingling sensation, as if electricity was passing between them. For just a moment, her vision shifted, and she could see the quantum networks that connected the enhanced operatives, the vast web of communications and coordination that spanned the galaxy. She saw the true scope of what they were attempting, not just military action, but a fundamental transformation of galactic civilization. The enhanced hadn't just been changed by their procedure, they had become the seeds of something entirely new. "Sarah," she said quietly, "when this is over, when the hegemony falls, what comes next?" Sarah's smile was radiant with possibility. "Something that's never existed before, Captain. A truly free society, where consciousness and technology work together instead of in opposition, where every sapient being has the chance to become more than they ever imagined." She gestured to the command center around them, to the mixed species working together with technology that responded to thought and intention. "We're not just fighting to destroy the hegemony, we're fighting to birth a new kind of civilization entirely." In the distance, alarms began to sound, not warnings of danger, but signals that the operation was beginning. Across the galaxy, enhanced operatives were moving to their positions, preparing to reveal the truth about Operation Purification to every corner of civilized space. "Time to go," Marcus announced. "Everyone to your ships. History is waiting." As Zara and her crew prepared to depart, Sarah approached her one final time. "Captain, there's something I need you to know. Something I should have told you before you made your decision." Zara paused. "What is it?" "The enhancement process. It's not just about neural integration with quantum systems. It changes how we perceive time, probability, causality itself. When I was put into stasis 19 years ago, I didn't just hope for rescue. I calculated the probability of it happening." Sarah's green eyes seemed to look through Zara rather than at her. "I knew someone would find me. I knew it would be someone capable of helping our cause, and I knew that person would be you, Captain Zara Thorne." The implications hit Zara like a thunderbolt. "You're saying this was all planned? That you manipulated events to ensure I'd find you?" "Not manipulated," Sarah corrected gently. "Guided. The quantum networks allow us to perceive probability streams, to nudge events toward desired outcomes. I didn't force you to save me. I simply made it more likely that you'd be in the right place at the right time." Zara stared at her, feeling a chill that had nothing to do with the station's environmental systems. "What else have you guided? What else have you arranged?" Sarah's smile was enigmatic. "The future, Captain. We've been arranging the future." As the Meridian's Edge departed Haven Station, Zara found herself looking back at the impossible structure one last time. She thought about Sarah's words, about probability streams and guided events, about a future that had been carefully orchestrated by beings who could see through time itself. She thought about the choice she had made, and wondered if it had really been a choice at all. But as the station faded into the quantum foam of folded space, Zara realized it didn't matter. Choice or destiny, manipulation or coincidence, the result was the same. She was part of something larger now, something that would reshape the galaxy forever. And for the first time in her life, she felt like she was exactly where she was supposed to be. The revolution had begun.